journey of life to gain blessings, hasanat, in this life and in the hereafter, and to gain ilmun nafi', to gain beneficial knowledge. The last few years, even months, in the world has shown us an intensification in apocalyptic events. And when I say that, I mean that the things that are going on in the natural world, and this is probably where the greatest apocalypse is, the natural world, the floods, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, the fires. What is happening in the natural world is unprecedented. The warming of the earth has actually reached a state that they have never imagined possible. Antarctica right now, the huge ice caps are melting. And no doubt, within the next few years, may Allah forbid, but the reality is in the next few years we will be witnessing some natural events which is going to change the relationship of people forever. The earth itself is, in a sense, throwing us off. Human beings have become, to a great extent, like a virus, where we literally infect the body. The places where so-called civilization goes in this past 300-400 years, it literally infects the environment, destroys the water, destroys the atmosphere, and causes confusion. Can you fix that, Ma'moon? Just fix that curtain there. I think it's a little bit of a thing. Yeah? Maybe open it so it doesn't flick, because it's actually making a lot of noise.
Yeah. Or just hold the other one so you just go a little bit to the side. Yeah, there's two of them.
Along with this extreme test that we're under, and many of the scientists came to the conclusion, and I learned about this many years ago when I was living in Southern Africa, because the scientists of the world had gathered in South Africa, which they considered to be one of the oldest places of human life, and they layers of existence. And they came to the conclusion that we are living in what they call the sixth extinction. Okay, so if you get a chance, Google this thing. Sixth extinction. In geology, archaeology, and found that, over the past hundreds and thousands of years, that because of climatic change, asteroids hitting the earth, there have been major extinctions of life forms. So dinosaurs, invertebrates, different things have actually been made extinct, we believe, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if dinosaurs were alive today, we wouldn't have a chance. But by the will of Allah, they were wiped out. This is the sixth extinction. And this one, scientists who don't believe in God, say it is mammals and birds. Mammals and birds is being affected the heaviest by this extinction, and right now over 50% of the mammals and birds on Earth have been destroyed, never to come back. And this sixth extinction, with the environmental change that is going on, is causing a major uproar and major changes that we are witnessing every day. Politically, the world is now in a very delicate state. Right? It is said that the man with the blonde wig down south, he has his finger on the nuclear button. Serious thing. They have more nuclear weapons society more weapons of mass destruction than any society in history. And don't forget, they were the only country to use it before. They used it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 150,000 people died instantly. And the war was already over. The war was over. They did not have to use the bomb. But they dropped the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima in Japan and then Nagasaki. So we are in what they considered to be, and they looked at the time of the world. There's only a few minutes left in actually our existence, politically and militarily. Because if the wrong thing happens and a bomb hits one place and then the reaction goes, there would easily be a nuclear war whose fallout could destroy much of what we know as civilization. Economically, we are at the footsteps of a recession. There was a great recession in 2008, right? There is another one which is about to strike again. And the recent tariffs that are going on, the trade wars between US and China, is going to put us to the brink of a major confusion economically. And right now, the most important institution in all of our mega cities is the bank. Any city that you go to, and I've traveled to a number of countries, right? Anytime you come into a big city, look at that city, if it's part of the so-called Western civilization, and the biggest building is the bank. Usually the next one, insurance. Mark my words, go to any city and look. And you're going to see. The bankers are actually deciding the politics of the world. And many of your leaders, our leaders, are merely public relations officers. And when the confusion hits economically, right, that's going to hit the source, the bottom line. And we Muslims, who have been blessed with the last revelation, we are in the middle of it. We are in the middle of it. And we thought for a long time that this could not hit us. But if we had our eyes open to our sources, we would realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah Al-Anbiya, وَنَبْلُوَكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. And we shall certainly test you by way of good and evil, and you will all return to us. Right? Shar, khair, we'll test you with fitna. Okay, so this is one of the key words that we want to try to understand tonight. Fitna. And a fitna is a trial, a temptation, or punishment. It's even like a confusion where you're not sure which way to go. We use fitna in many of our Islamic languages to mean different things. Okay? Fitna in Urdu, you have that in Urdu? What does fitna mean? It can also be a trial that you're going through in order to be purified. Because it comes from the fatuna, the word itself is used when you purify metals, like gold or different metals, you do it with fire. You burn it to purify it. Okay? And so this is what we are going through, a type of purification in a sense. I had the opportunity or the test to see this with my own eyes. I was in West Africa. I was in Timbuktu area in Mali, in the Sahara with Tawarik people, and who are living at, with only the basis of life, who are actually living in the desert region, okay? And I was there with them in the desert, and I had to continue my journey. And so these are all Muslims, all making salat, have the same belief, and one group has barely enough to eat and drink, to break fast, barely enough is there. But the other group has probably the highest standard of living, per capita income on earth, right? So now it is said that we will try you with good, we will try you with good and with evil, okay? So both, we're getting tried. The afternoon and be an unbeliever. Another one will be a believer in the afternoon, and by the next morning, they'll be an unbeliever. And now look what he said. Some of you will sell your religion for a few objects of this world. Bi'aradan min ad-dunya. Trinkets. Calvin Klein. Gucci. Right? They will sell their deen for this. Look at how penetrating this is. Okay? But the point is that he's saying that, he said, strive with your good deed. Do as many good deeds as you possibly can. Going to come, and we are actually in the middle of it now. We're in the middle of it. So one of the advices that we have is do good deeds. Whatever you can do that is good, along with, other things, do as much as you can. Tomorrow, the 9th, of Ashura, don't fast on the 10th, fast on the 9th too. Right? Possibly can, of the good deeds, before it is too late. And one of the traditions in this light, which is so interesting, and again, the times that we are living in, times of trials and temptations, and the other concept is deceit, lying, okay, confusion. And this is getting worse and worse by the minute. And with the rise of social media, and electronic handheld devices, cyberspace, which really helps human beings in a lot of ways, but also at the same time, it brings in a whole false world. And there is one hadith here, which I want to share with you. And when I first read this hadith some years ago, it had meaning, but now this is an unbelievable tradition. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Sayati ala nas sanawatun khadda'at, yusaddiqu fiha al-kadhib, wa yukadhibu fiha al-sadiq, wa yu'tamanu fiha al-kha'in, wa yukhawwinu fiha al-amin, wa yantiqu fiha al-ruwaybida, qila wa ma al-ruwaybida, qala al-rajul al-tafi fi amr al-ama." The Prophet ﷺ said, there will come upon the people treacherous years, sanawatun da'at, treacherous years, in which the liar will be believed. The treacherous one will be trusted, and the trust They're a failure in life. Okay? An ajiz, liar and immoral, caught in act clearly to the people. But yet that person is the one who speaks out in public affairs. This is Ruwaybida. And Sadaqa Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. This has come to pass. And we are looking at this. This is going to give me trouble now. Okay? Yeah, see if you can move that for me. وَمَا الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. The life of this world is nothing but material deception. And that's in Surah Al-Hadid, verse 20. Right? Now, the danger of deception. What is this deception? Why is it so important? Because deception is something that is not clear. It's something which is confusing. And the go-to person in this that we're using, his name is Muwafiq ad-Din Abu Muhammad Abdullah ibn Ahmed ibn Muhammad ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, rahimahullah. Okay? He's known as Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. And he died around 620 after the Hijrah. And his book is Minhaj al-Qasidin. Minhaj al-Qasidin. It's not going to be on the board, right? But I'll give you this later on as a reference. His name is Ibn Qudama. This book is translated into English. And I think bookstores like the Iqna bookstore here and other bookstores, you can get it online. Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. That's Qudamah al-Maqdisi. Minhaj al-Qasidin. Minhaj al-Qasidin. Okay? In this study, and I want to give you just the basis of where this scholar was coming from. Go to the next one. Where he was coming from. He looked at taqwa, first taqwa. You know, we talk about, Imam al-Shafi'i said, in Jummah, if the Imam does not talk about taqwa, he's saying that his khutbah is not complete. That's how serious the Shafi'is were about taqwa. And you'll hear in just about every Friday sermon, there should be somewhere in it taqwa, ittaqullah. And that's based on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And taqwa can be defined in many different ways. Okay? Some say it is the fear of Allah, it is a hope in Allah, al-khawf, raja. So it's made up of fear and hope. Okay? And it could be, guarding your faith. I call it the consciousness of Allah. God consciousness. That's what taqwa is. It's like this, some people say like your conscience. It's like a God consciousness around you with your taqwa. And if your taqwa is strong, it's like a spiritual shield that can protect you. It help you make right decisions. Okay? But Ibn Qudama went deep into this. And he said, Al-Khawf wal-Raja, he said that fear and hope, right, that these two things, they are, the Arabic, he said, Sa'iqani yab'athani ala al-amal. He said that they are two stimulants. They stimulate you to do good deeds. It does not stimulate you is ghurur. Ghurur is the name with ghain. Ghurur. So taqwa, because if you fear something, you run back. Okay, if you hope in something, you're going to move towards it. These things are supposed to stimulate you, right? But if you're not being stimulated, that's ghurur. Okay? Some of the definitions for the word ghurur, there's a few I have here and I'll give you some more. You could translate in English as deception. It's also an illusion or a delusion. deluded, right? But this is interesting because if you go back to the big books in Islamic terminologies, Asfahani and whatnot, it can be described as stagnation, self-conceit, self-seduction, when you seduce yourself. Okay? All these things are ghurur. And this is a serious issue because this is an issue that most of our people, we actually miss out on. Because to a great extent, we are being deceived. The general body of people on earth, deception is all around the place. Okay? People, especially now with materials, they are being seriously fooled. One of the ways of being fooled, I remember some years back, it is with the lottery. And every day I go inside, I went into Shoppers Drug Mart, I think I got in the wrong line. I was in Metro, and they looked at me and they said, "Are you playing the lottery?" Playing the lottery, right? And one year, a person won the lottery in Canada. The family won the lottery, and they won, a few, $9 million or something like this. This is some years back. There was a big amount of money. And they went on television, and the father was there. And they interviewed the father, and he said, "May God have mercy on us." The father was smart, right? Okay, because the next day, they were calling their house. They wanted to marry the girl, whatever. Everybody was going for them because the money, right? So many people were bothering them for the money. They had to change their identity and their address, and they had to hide. So the money that was supposed to liberate them put them in prison. See it? وَمَا الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. The life of this world is material deception. Another person won the lottery in the UK. 20 million pounds. The whole of the UK stood still. They said, "This man is in paradise." I mean, imagine if they said tomorrow to you, "You now have 20 million pounds." How would you feel? The person, he's in paradise. He has no other problem for the rest of his life. Okay? And then he started ordering food, wine from France, caviar from Russia. He started eating and eating and eating food and whatever until he gained 300 pounds, something like that, and then he dropped dead. So the money that was supposed to give him life took his life. You see it? وَمَا الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. So there is a anxiety, and that is out there. The deception which is of importance to us today is Muslims, because we have to look at ourselves now. What kind of deception? Ibn Qudama rahimahullah is like a detective. He studied Muslims' lives, and it's shocking to see some of the results of a scholar living, over 1,000 years ago that are almost the same thing today. And he said that there's many types of ghurur. There are some people who are actually, they are fooled and deceived by their family. And they say, "Well, I don't have to give sadaqah, charity. My mother used to do it." They say, "Well, I don't have to study because my father was a scholar. So why do I have to study?" This person's being fooled. And this is the level of the shaitan wa iyadu billah today. That the plan of the evil one with us is a very subtle one. It's a very tricky one now. That's how we're being hit. And some people, they feel that just because of their family, they're forgiven. You have some people, and we say this with all respects to the family of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have some people who call themselves Sharif, right? Sayyid. Or Sayyid. And we have all respect to the family of the Prophet ﷺ. We do salawat all the time to them. We respect them. But some people are being fooled by their family. And I lived in Medina for many years, and I met some person who's real, he brought out his whole family tree and showed me all the names and all that. I said, "Okay, man." And he showed me all the names. But what happened is sometimes a Sayyid went to a village in India or in West Africa or Malaysia, and the Sayyid lived there, so everybody in the village became a Sayyid. But very few people could actually trace their bloodline actually back if you really want to go physically into it. But the reality is, even if a person says they're Sayyid, right, you can be deceived by that. Because the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Abu Lahab, he was Hashimi. He had the noble lineage, right? And he's burning in hell. He's in the Quran, Surah Al-Lahab. He's Hashimi, right? So the blood is not enough. So we cannot be fooled by the fact of a family or by the place or where you come from in the world. This is a form of ghurur. So see how this ghurur goes? There's other people, Ibn Qudama shows us, who are fooled by their deeds. They get up in the morning and they do 100 istighfar after Fajr. Astaghfirullah. They say 100 times. And some of them will go to Mecca and do it, right? So times 100,000, they start multiplying, right? I did it in Jama'ah, 27, whatever. They got calculators now, right? See how much hasanat he get. So after he does this in the morning, he spends the rest of the day backbiting, scandalizing the imam, raising the price in his shop. But he thinks that because he did the istighfar in the morning, right, that his hasanat will be more than the sayyi'at, right? The good deeds more than he is being deceived. See how deception goes? He's being that when the great Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, one of the great imams of Islam, was on his deathbed. And his students listened to him. He was on his deathbed. And he said, La bad, la bad. And one of the students came and said, what are you saying, Imam? And he said, the shaitan came to me and said, Imam, you're saved. And he said, not yet. You see? This is Imam Ahmed in his last moments. He said, La bad. Don't try to trick me, right? Right up until the last moment, you have to be vigilant. You have to be vigilant. And too many times, we are being fooled, by a cultural type of Islam. Say, Inna Allah Kareem, Allah Kareem. It's okay, I'll drink, I'll smoke, I'll fight, I'll do whatever I can, and then when I get to be about 50 or 60, then I'll make Hajj. And everything is okay. Right? Or I will do Laylatul Qadr. I went to one country, and I don't want to say which one it is because I don't like to finger people. But I went to this country, and this is a true story. And it was now the 27th night in Ramadan. And it was packed, and they did 100 rakats. I didn't do 100 rakats with them. They did 100 rakats, and I said to the brother, what is this, man? They said, no, do the math. This is Laylatul Qadr khayran min alfi shahr. Right? It's better than 1,000 months, times 27. 100 rakats. So they finished that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, I'll see you next year. Because you don't have to pray for the rest of the year, right? You got enough barakah to last you the whole year. They are being deceived. See how deception goes? And this is really important because we have in our folk culture of Islam, many times we have cultural deceptions that have been put in sometimes from a previous religion, sometimes from the shaitan wal iyadhu billah, which pops up and comes up within our cultures and within our societies. And so the ghurur, and Ibn Qudama rahimahullah, he took it a step further. Okay, and he said the ghurur can actually, it can touch key categories of people within Islam. Okay, and you would never think that this could happen. he said ghurur can touch the ulama, the scholars. Scholars can be deceived. How can a scholar be deceived? The scholar can be deceived because they will teach about ghurur, but they don't apply it to themselves. Right? And in Surah Ash-Shams, right, it is saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Who is successful is the one who purifies himself. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. That the one who will be destroyed if you leave yourself alone. So what zakaha means, the one who's successful is not the one who talks about purity, but the one who does the purity. You see? So the scholars themselves can actually be touched in this. Some people read the Quran, they learn makharij al-huruf, how to pronounce tajweed. And they will do the tajweed so beautiful. But the Prophet ﷺ said the time would come when people would read the Quran in beautiful tones, but it wouldn't touch their heart. Anybody know what that means? They will read it in a beautiful way, but it doesn't touch their heart. What does that mean? Or fast, but what is he describing?
No contemplation.
Yeah, it's only words, right? It's this one thing to read it beautiful, but do you practice what it said? Are you actually implementing what the book said itself? So there could be Quran readers who make you cry with their recitation, but they're actually being deceived by the shaitan. Wal-iyadhu billah. That's how deep this deception is going now into our community. And he said, rahimahullah, that even the people who call themselves mutasawwifa, you would say the Sufis. And these are people who claim they have spiritual heights, right? The purity of the heart. This is Ibn Qudama talking now. He said even the mutasawwifa, they can be deceived. Because they will claim to humility and they will claim to have purity, but when you get close to them, they're heavily into materials and they have jealousy, envy, they're fighting for power. Ghurur can also impact rich people, people who have money and they give in the path of Allah. But if they're giving in order for their name to be put on the masjid, or they're giving for a reputation, they're being fooled by the shaitan. So that's how deep this ghurur goes. It goes even to the point of righteous deeds, where people are doing righteous deeds, but they can actually be deceived. They can actually be deceived. Okay? Any questions anybody has? I'll stop periodically, and open up the floor for any feedback. So we're having.
Also makes pride as well.
Ghurur can also, self-conceit, pride. So some describe it as self-conceit or self-seduction. You say, I am the sheikh of the shuyukh. I am the greatest. I've reached this point. Scholars who have done this as well, you'll see it in their writings. Ibn Taymiyyah, to round off what he is saying. He said there's 3 areas you can look at. One is to have a mind with which the person realizes the reality of things. In other words, your mind can realize reality. You're not caught up in confusion. Okay? And that's something which is really getting more and more difficult for us. Because the more you're on that cell phone, is the more likely you are not to know reality. And I've seen people even, you see everybody, everywhere I go in the world now, and you stop the bus, plane, everywhere, like this. They're looking in the phone. Okay? Their mind is stuck inside of there. Okay? Some people are crossing the street, and there's a giant truck in front of them, and they're like this. And I'm just holding myself. we have to come out of false reality. So Ibn Qudama, he's this far back, but he said you have to have a mind which can, distinguish between unclear things, false things, reality. You got to train your mind now. He said, knowing yourself, right? You should know yourself. This is going to be self-knowledge, right? Knowing yourself. Learn about the obstacles that are going to face you along your journey. Okay, and this is what we hoped to do. It's such a vast study, but to open up the door to this, to try to understand how important it is. Okay, and the Prophet ﷺ, in speaking about this, the hereafter, the journey, right? The journey, the connection of this life to the hereafter. He said, Al-Kayyis man dana nafsa wa amila lima ba'd al-maut wal ahmaq man atba'a nafsahu hawaha tamanna ala Allah al-hamani. He said, the intelligent person is the one who controls himself in this life and works toward what is after death. But the idiot, the fool, is the one who lets himself go and hopes that Allah will forgive him in the end. See the difference in the two? Al-Kayyis, that means a cunning person. It's a serious word in Arabic. Kayyis is a really intelligent person, right? That's the person who's going to control himself in this world, and they realize, I'm going on to another world. I'm going to make a transition. I got a short time here. The biggest life is coming. And even if for a person who doesn't believe in God or organized religion, you know what scientists, for every action, there's a reaction. For every action, there's a reaction. So if there is negativity, if the person is putting out negativity, then eventually that negativity, even scientists who don't believe in God recognize that. So if you go to your death, you go out, your body dies, and the only thing is left is the energy, your spirit, and we're going to look at what this is, ar-ruh, is the only thing left. Okay, that's like your deeds, it's your energy, right? Are you positive energy or negative energy? So basically what Islam is doing for us, it's purifying our energy. Because when we are saying, when we have tawheed, we're clearing ourselves of shirk, right? When you pray, you're making wudu and praying, you're literally wiping off evil energy. I'm using these terminologies now, right? You're wiping. When you give zakat, zakat means to purify your wealth. It doesn't really mean give to the charity to the poor. No, zakat is the purification of your wealth. When you give that 2.5%, if the year has gone over and you have, the amount necessary, your wealth is now halal. If you didn't do that, the net wealth that you have is actually against you. When you fast in Ramadan, what does Ramadan give us? Taqwa. That's what the essence of Ramadan is. It builds up our taqwa. It gives us positive energy. When you make Hajj, what is it? Hajj Mabrur, where you're supposed to return like a baby, right? All your sins are wiped away. So the negativity that you have, the Hajj is now wiping it away. See what happens? So when you wipe it away, right, then if you meet Allah with wiped away, person makes Hajj Mabrur and they die over there, they're actually fortunate. Person takes Shahada, all their sins are wiped away. Right? So when the soul is meeting the Lord in a pure state, right, then that is what we want. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ is then saying, that's the intelligent person. But the idiot is the one who says, I'll just do what I want. I always use this example of Nike Air, just do it. But Nike has now endorsed Colin Kaepernick. I don't know if you're aware of the politics of the Football League. But the point is, just do it. What does just do it mean? Do anything, right? Just do it. So this is what that means. You let yourself go, and then you say, Allah Kareem, Allah will forgive me in the end. And, I once did this. That's a fool. That's an idiot. And that's the word ahmaq, which is being used. He's an idiot. Because if you look at life, look at our lives, right? Look at the world that we're living in now. If you live to be 100 years old, that's a pretty good life in these times. Okay? 63 really is, our age. Anything over 63, you're living on borrowed time. Okay? If you live to be 100 years old, okay, compare that to next world, where Allah said, "Khalidina fiha abadan." They will live in the next world forever. Okay? Compare it to the next world. Khalidina fiha abadan. They will live in the next world. Okay? If you take the life of this world, say the next world, do the math. If it's, it's eternal life. So if you say 5 quintillion, whatever, divide 100 into that, and the answer is 0. It's actually 0. So what we are looking at now, and what we would like to go through, okay, is the journey into the hereafter. The journey of life. And we would like to go through the whole importance. Okay, next week I'm going to bring my own laptop. We're going to go through the whole journey, and I'm going to explain to you, about what this whole journey is. Okay, and I'll show it to you, on the screen next week, inshallah. The point is, however, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, right in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. Those who believe in the unseen. These are the real successful ones, right? The ones who believe in the hereafter. So therefore, it is crucial for us to understand what is the journey. Basically, what the journey is that we're going to do, and I'll show it to you conceptually, is the journey begins conception. Okay? There is a conception. The child is conceived for 9 months. Okay? So the first major event is conception. Okay? 9 months in the womb. If you were to go into the womb and do an interview, journalists are going everywhere now. If you could do an interview with that baby inside the womb and say, what do you think about life? The baby would probably say, it's very wet inside of here, but it's warm. But every once in a while, I feel a little fear. Whatever the mother goes through, it affects the baby, right? So I'm feeling some different things, but basically, I'm relaxed in here and it's nice and warm. And if you were to tell that person that in a few days, you will come out into the world and you will see colors and trees, and you'll see all these things in front of you now. That child would probably say to you, you're a liar. Prove it to me. Because what do they know, right? They're in the womb, right? Think about this. Then the event happens. With the event which is birth of the child, then the vision comes, if Allah wills. And they are seeing all the things, and they are living in what you could call hayat dunya, That's the life of this world, okay? So you live in the world for a period of time, and then there is another major event. And that event is of transition. What's that event? Death. Al-Maut. Big event, right? Birth is one, takes you out of the womb into the dunya. Death is another transition, which takes you from the dunya to the barzakh, which is a zone of existence. Some call the grave, but everybody doesn't have a grave. It's like a metaphysical existence that we're in. And we stay in this period of time, we stay in this existence for a period of time. And we will stay in that existence until another big event comes. And that is al-Ba'ath. That is the resurrection. When everybody will be resurrected. Right? And then they will now face, all people will be there. And this is Qiyamah, right? They will go through the Qiyamah, the Hisab, all the things, and then they will move towards the final place. They have to cross the Sirat, a path, and then Jannah or Jahannam. Right? So we want to study, inshallah, we want to go on the whole journey and try to understand what is happening in the journey. You have a question?
This is basically the life. We know it from the many years Muslims are. But what my question is, when you started from the womb,
Yeah.
things are not that smooth that we. I see that a child become autistic. What is his fault? Why he is autistic? Can you explain?
Yeah, I mean, you know, what happens to people.
What Allah wants to gain with this?
Okay, let me, you know, our reality is, as Allah said, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You have only been given a little bit of knowledge. And Allah knows best what that person, why that person is in that condition. Right? Why does a person die as a child? Okay? Why does a person live a long life? You know, why does some have money, some don't have money? Allah knows best. That's something with the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the more you see the wonders that happen, you know, inside of this world, you will see that actually there are some really great people in this world who are autistic, you know. Famous artists and musicians and some people who have done major mathematical things and whatnot who are in that condition, blind as well, right? Right? Or not hearing. So Allah knows best why we're in that condition. Okay? We are going through this and moving into the hereafter. What we want to look at, and the question that comes that we want to look at in the last part of this class is, why should you believe in the hereafter? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say right in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, when describing the muttaqeen, right? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, those who believe in the hereafter, in the unseen. Why is it so important? Number one, you have to realize now in this world we're living in, and you know, they even talk about what is called the final conflict. End of days, right? The last days. So it is important for us that we need to understand what is our position. I want to give you an example how serious this thing is. You know what? And I'll read this with you. I just recently found this out. That there's a Jewish group, and you can go online and see, and they say an apparently completely red heifer has been born. They say it's the first in 2,000 years, thus fulfilling a biblical prophecy that signals the coming of the Messiah, which Christians believe will end with an apocalypse. The birth of the potential cow of prophecy was announced by a group called the Temple Institute. Okay, and they're a group which says it is dedicated. Christians also believe the construction of the third temple will lead to Judgment Day. That's what these people are talking about, right? Our kids are talking about mutant creatures, right? X-Men. That's what they want to get everybody on, right? But you go in their churches and their synagogues, and now they're spreading it around. This is a serious thing. And we're going to look at this in more details, because it is part of the Orthodox Jews' belief that they need to take control of the Temple Mount. The problem is that where they believe their temple was, in the Dome of the Rock, all of it's Aqsa really. But right under there, they're digging red heifer. Now this cow must be 100% red. They brought one out, I remember about 20 years ago, but they found little splotch of white on it. So they rejected it. They are claiming now this one is actually the final one. Okay? So it is with this, just wait one second, let me finish this.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. So the people are trying to understand what is happening in the end of days. And from all perspectives, we are right next to the end of days. Okay? So this is an opening now that we've begun the journey. And inshallah, we hope to continue on this journey, right, to take us right through what will happen in the grave, the signs of the last days, minor signs, major signs, the Qiyamah, the Sirat, Jannah, Jahannam, all the way through to try to understand what is going on in this journey of life. So I leave you with these thoughts as our beginning class. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help us to go to this journey of life and would protect us from fitna, especially the fitna of Masihi Dajjal. May Allah protect us from the fitna of the Antichrist and of all those evil things in this world. I leave you with these thoughts. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.